Make a goat's milk or any other milk soap, you are going to use a cold process method, but there is a couple of key differences. The main one is that you start always with the milk frozen. And that's because when you add lye to a liquid, it heats up. But we want to keep our milk as uncooked as possible. So we freeze it so that it doesn't cook and doesn't turn brown, which can happen. Particularly the fat in the milk will cook and almost like ghee separate with the milk solids away from the rest of the liquid. With a cold process soap, we use sodium hydroxide, which I have already measured out. And this goat milk I measured out earlier as well. I just froze it as is, so it's 375 grams of goat's milk. And I'm adding always the lye to the liquid, 155 grams. Now I just do it a little bit at a time. And you can see the lye starting to melt the milk. So I've added all of my lye, and I'm just going to stir it so that the rest of the frozen bits break up. And then I'm going to add my pre-measured oils. Now, because this recipe uses coconut oil, I've already melted that so that it just all pours in really nicely. So into a new bowl, I'm going to add all of my melted oils. So I'm starting with 425 grams of olive oil. I'm using an extra virgin olive oil, which gives it that lovely sort of greeny gold color. Then my 340 grams of melted coconut oil. And my 370 grams of melted shea butter. Shea butter is a really moisturizing oil, so it's quite a good one to add to soaps. And then I'm just going to add my lye and milk mix to the oil. And just give that a bit of a stir. And then I'm going to start bringing it to trace with my wand mixer. You can see it's become a thicker pudding consistency. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that and pour it into my molds. You can use any sort of container to make soap molds. I don't tend to buy anything special. I just use Tupperware or a box that I made out of wood for soap molds. Cardboard boxes work well as well. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on it. If you're just making soap for your own home, you can always trim them up nicely if you want to give them as gifts. So here I have just a plastic container lined with baking parchment, and I'm just gonna pour my soap into it. Now, I forgot to mention before I go further that if you want to add essential oils to your soap, now is the time to do it. You do it just after trace, and for this recipe, it's about 29 or 30 grams of essential oil to get a nice even scent. I don't add essential oils to my soaps because I'm allergic. So I just use unscented soap for pretty much everything. It still smells clean, it just doesn't have any sort of other smells. It's gonna set, and then we are going to take it out of the molds and cut it tomorrow morning. You can see with my goat's milk soap that it has turned a lot lighter in color, and it's ready to be tipped out and cut, just like we did with the other cold processed soap mix. The same rules apply here. You want to chop it into bars and then let it cure for about, well, I start checking it about 2 weeks, but it often takes up to 4 weeks, especially in winter, to cure completely. And the way that you test it is you stick your tongue on it. I wish there was a better way. If you don't want to stick your tongue on it, leave it for a good 6 weeks and then you will be fine.